All right, what's good, everybody? It's your man's Ken Jackson. This is the Ken Jackson Experience Daily Commentary. Gonna start doing this on a regular basis, so hopefully y'all will join me. I uh, been going through a lot lately, and getting life back together, and just focusing on some new things. You know what I mean? And I think it's about time to do that. Offer y'all some real shit instead of the buffoonery and complicated bullshit. So I'm feeling good today. I'm not 100%, obviously. I had a heart attack a week ago. It was mild, but it was still a heart attack. And, but hey, it is what it is. My condition is pretty bad, and it's not really a lot I can do to fix it. So, I'm just going to ride until the wheels fall off, and trust me, I'm not in need of any sympathy or anything like that. I appreciate all the well wishes and the phone calls that I've gotten the last few days, but that's not what it's about, really. It's just about realizing how precious life is, and about reprioritizing things in my life, and hopefully you got your priorities in order. And if not, if there's something that I can help you with, shout out, let me know. But anyway, like I said, I'm feeling pretty damn good today. Working on getting some financial things in order. It's been a rough past couple of years, obviously, when we're dealing with medical problems and having to reorder your work-life balance. I am officially retired. I have been now for about 2 years, and needless to say, it's been up and down. I'm not starving or anything like that. But, like I said, it's tough. Cost of living is ridiculous. I know a lot of y'all out there struggling, trying to make ends meet. Probably a lot of y'all ends haven't met in years, maybe a decade or more, you know what I mean? And it's just going to keep on going up from here. I can remember when I was younger, man, and prices on things were so much different, but we thought it was expensive back then. You know what I mean? But I can remember filling my car up, when I was 17. Yes, I had a car at 17 just before I left to go into the Navy. But I can remember when all I needed was about $5, and I had a full tank. And me and my homies, we could go bend some corners, and do what we want, with just, a few dollars. Back then it wasn't just a few dollars. We thought it was damn hard to get, $10, $15 to go out on the town, you know what I mean? And then from there, everything started getting higher. I can remember the years I was living in Japan, and whenever we were in home port, we would go up to Tokyo and go club hopping. And it was, I don't know if it's still the same now, but back then, a lot of the clubs in Japan were in high rises, and so you would enter, and you would pay like one price at the bottom, and it'd be like the equivalent of like $25 or $30, but there would be each floor would be a different type of club, and you could ride the elevators all night long, going from club to club. There was free food and free drinks. It was pay one price at the door, and you go in there and party and have a good time. I didn't drink. I was never a drinker. But Japanese has some great chicken wings and French fries and other types of really cool finger foods to eat, and it was fun, man. Japanese people know how to party. Let me tell you. Back then, they were partying hard, but they worked hard. And people worked hard and they play hard. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that's still the same. But it was a great time. It was a great time. And then traveling to all the other countries that I got to go to, like the Philippines, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, you know. I mean, it was an awesome time in my life, and I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. But then I got out of the Navy, started my first business, which was called DMT Entertainment. Diverse Musical Talent is what it stood for. And, we're in San Diego. I had a couple of partners, and we were doing our thing in the early days of hip hop, and trying to get some things popping with some artists we were managing and producing back then. Yeah, I started producing then in San Diego. I remember buying my first music workstation. It was a Peavey DPM, was it the DPM-3, I believe? But it had like an 8-track sequencer, and I know a lot of y'all don't know what a sequencer is right now, but that's what used to, bring all the different instruments together, so that we can organize that shit into a song. And I had a Tascam Porta 3 multi-track cassette recorder and a couple of Radio Shack microphones, and I set that shit up in my apartment, man, and we was recording, producing, and doing it all right there at the house, and that was in like 1991, 91, 92, and it was cool, man. Independent music scene, and we were pushing cassette tapes out on the street, and life was just crazy cool, you know what I mean? And I had a great time in San Diego. I was married at the time to a Navy girl, a person that I served with when I was on active duty, but she was stationed on board a ship and ended up doing a Western Pacific deployment. And then when she came back, we used to have this motto when we went to sea. We said, what happens at sea stays at sea. Well, she didn't leave the shit at sea. She brought it home. And obviously, we had to go our separate ways. And it was a pretty bad split, But in any case, it worked out for the best anyway, because then I ended up going back home to Jersey. And, got hooked up with some people back in Jersey. Storm and Norman Bradley, shout out, bro. BKS One Radio there in Plainfield, New Jersey. Back then, it wasn't BKS One. He had a recording studio up on Front Street, and, I kind of collaborated with them a little bit. Didn't really get too involved. It didn't last long because I ended up moving to Florida. And in Florida is where Crazy Baby Entertainment was born. And man, all my kids were born and raised in Florida, and they grew up in the music industry along with me. And, I did a lot of work over the years with some major labels and, a lot of independent labels and artists. And, so life was lifing, and it was good, Even when it wasn't good, it was still good. You know what I mean? It took a while, to get our momentum. After I opened up my first studios down here in Florida and here in Fort Pierce, and opened up the first, real studio, that was like outside the home, here in the city of Fort Pierce. And, we was hot. We was doing things, man. We was having a ball making music, and a lot of talented people were coming through, and some of them, went on to bigger things, had a couple of successful singles and shit like that over the years. And I'm sure probably a lot of y'all never heard of them, because they were like Southern hits, statewide and regional type, you know, popularity, but again, like I said, I did work with some major labels over the years and some major and minor artists, and, it was just a time in my life that, things were awesome, So here I am now. I basically, shut down my studio, the last studio that I was involved with, we shut down. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years ago now, maybe six, because that's when my health got really bad. I found out I was diabetic and started having issues related to that. My blood pressure's, been an issue for about almost 29 years. Because I found out I was having blood pressure issues when my first child was born, when my son was born, and he's 29 now. So, but been dealing with that for a while. And then, like I said, it's been about 6 years, that I had my last, commercial recording studio venture. Moved on from that, and started working on trying to get healthy again, and then, man, it's been a roller coaster. I, ended up having a toe amputated because of a spider bite, and I'm sure it was complicated, by the diabetes. Made it a little bit more difficult to heal, but it healed up just fine. So I'm 9 toes down and still standing. You know what I mean? But then I had a stroke. I had what's called a mini stroke. First one was about 5 years ago. And that's when I was like really, really done with music and production and shit like that. Now, the ironic thing is I started Crazy Baby TV 15 years ago. I was managing an artist named Michaela Page from West Boca Raton. And she's an incredible singer. She still is an incredible singer. Super talented, loved her to death. Her family, it became like family to me. But we went through the typical ups and downs, being in the music industry, and a former business partner of mine, Mr. Sidney McDonald. Shout out to Sidney up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Every Exposure Entertainment. And let me tell you, Sidney was a godsend when I met him, and he helped us get hooked up with Sony Records. Prior to that, though, I did some work with an artist from down here, that I worked with for many years, Big Ass Co. Big Ass Co. was signed to Bad Boy, and we worked with Bad Boy for that was like a 5-year odyssey, producing, and recording, exclusively for Co. Here in Fort Pierce. And then he had a dope-ass producer on his team. I got linked up with him through another artist that I was working with by the name of One Shot. From here in Fort Pierce, and they had a rap group called the Beer Hut Gang, BHG, and we produced a dope ass album back in 1998, and it was awesome. Good times. There's so many good times to reminisce on, and I know I'm all over the place right now, but this is, just an introduction to our new future broadcasting schedule. No more politics, no more religion, none of that bullshit. I just want to talk about life and living and having a good time and getting your priorities in order and just making life better, for anybody that I can touch, So bear with me, y'all. I thank everybody, who is, randomly logged on and watched over the years. Because this has kind of been more of a personal hobby than it has been, a real venture, a real business. But I want to, take it and be more serious. So we're gonna be doing some interviews with artists and people in general. Something that I definitely want to do because I love talking to people. I really do. Well, we're going to be opening up phone lines to have live conversations with you if you so choose. And that's my goal now, to stay as healthy as possible, and just have some fun with this shit, man, because life don't have to be so serious. No matter how difficult things are, no matter how stressful, things may get. Sometimes you just gotta push back and chill and just let that shit flow. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot that happens that we don't have any control over. There are so many things that go on in life that we don't have any control whatsoever over. But you do have control over one thing at all times, and that's how you respond to whatever is coming at you. You know what I mean? And your response can make all the difference in how an event turns out. You know what I mean? You may not be able to control the narrative, or control, the actual workings of whatever happens, but how you respond to it is totally up to you. And how you respond to it can make all the difference on how it affects your life. Like when I started having these medical problems and, realizing that my body was breaking down, and hey, I'm getting older too. I'm going to be 60 years old in September. You know what I mean? But when these things started happening to me, I could have just, let myself get depressed. I could have just said, fuck it all, and just laid down and said, fuck it. What? I'm ready to go now, or what? I could have done all types of dumb shit, but not me. It's not my DNA. I couldn't allow myself, to just fold like that. And don't get me wrong. I did have some depressing days, and I did have those days when I was feeling sorry for myself, but I turned that shit around pretty goddamn quickly because, I sat back and I thought about it. I said, you know what? Life is lifing, and the world is going to keep turning, long after I'm gone, so at least while I'm here, I need to fully embrace and enjoy what life I have left, because life is so precious, and you never realize how really lucky you are to be living. And I want to say this. I want you to get this in your mind, because it's estimated that about 100 billion people have existed since the beginning of human existence here on Earth, right? Estimated about 100 billion people have lived and past, come and gone. Just 100 billion memories. You follow what I'm saying? And based on genetics and DNA, they did a study and found that the combinations of how many people could exist is astronomical. I mean, it's like you can't even count that high. The world's biggest supercomputer right now can't count that high. So the fact that you're alive now, basically what they said was that out of all the people that could ever exist, they will never exist. You follow what I'm saying? So the fact that you actually made it here to life, to live here and now in this universe, is beyond calculation. So your life, your single life, is so special and so precious. And, all of our lives we're taught this bullshit about chasing the American dream and, getting a house and the picket fence and the nuclear family and all of that. And it's bullshit. We just need to enjoy and be grateful for existence. We come into this world and granted, we don't ask to come here as far as we know. But we're here. And we're here for such a minuscule amount of time in relation to the universe. Just need to appreciate it, enjoy it, because this has to be an extremely unique experience to exist here in the Milky Way galaxy on this planet called Earth, the solar system. You know what I mean? It's really a blessing, to be able to live here. So, and that's in spite of all the bullshit that we deal with as far as governments and religions and cost of living and all of that bullshit. Life don't have to be that complicated. Don't let your life become so complicated that you miss the true meaning of life. Now, what is the true meaning of life? I don't know what it is for you, because it's going to be different for everybody. And that's how unique and how special and precious life is, because the meaning of life for you ain't going to be the same for me. Or it could be, I don't know. But for me, the true meaning of life is just to be grateful and just enjoy it. That's all I can ever look forward to now, is just enjoying, my life, because it's mine. It's nobody else's. My experiences are mine. Your experiences are yours. And having the blessing of being a father, being a grandfather, being a friend, being a brother. That shit is just amazing to me, when I think about it. When I really sat back and said, you know what, this is crazy. Why am I stuck on this hamster wheel, chasing something that ain't gonna sustain me, in the next version of me. It's not, I can't, I come here and, and we all work hard and we gather, we accumulate things, but think about it. 100 years from now, ain't nobody gonna know who the fuck we were. You know what I'm saying? A few of us, maybe the top 0.1%, might become, world famous, but the majority of us, there's going to be no memory of us by anybody in 100 years, you know? And that's even within our own families. Think about your own family lineage. Okay, how many of you have actually traced your family back as far as you can go to find out who you came from? I bet probably 99.9% of you out there haven't done that. You know what I mean? I haven't done that. You know, I've traced my lineage back a few years, you know, but, you know, unfortunately, you know, I can only go back a few years because, you know, my family is descendants, you know, of the slave trade here in America. So I can only trace back, you know, to a plantation, you know, in Georgia, you know, Indian reservation here in Florida, you know, that type of thing, you know. That's as far as I can go back, you know. Fuck what you heard as far as the DNA and all of that. Oh, you got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, you know, we all got a little bit of everything in us. You follow what I'm saying? So, but I say that to say this. Your life is your unique experience, and it's up to you to make it what you want it to be. You have to make choices for yourself, and I'm not going to say good choices or bad choices. You just have to make decisions and choices that you feel are best for you, and then just run from there. And that's all I can say about that. That's all I can say. All right, so this has been my daily commentary. I'm Ken Jackson. This is the Ken Jackson Experience. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you a dime. I'm not trying to sell you shit. I don't have no merchandise or anything like that. I just want to share my experiences with you, and hopefully you'll share your experiences with me. But listen, Sunday night, we're going to go live at 9 p.m. The phone line's going to be open. You're all invited to log on and call in and let's talk. Talk about whatever, you know. But let's stay off the politics and all that bullshit. Let's just talk about living life and trying to enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I'll catch y'all Sunday, or who knows. I'm definitely doing random shit, you know, every day, really. So we're just going to have some fun. I'm your man's Ken Jackson. This has been the Ken Jackson Experience. Catch y'all next time. Peace.